You're always right there, aren't you? Right?
Good evening. My name is Bob Jones. Can you hear me back there? Thank you. Thank you. I'd like to welcome everyone. First off, I'd just like to say a quick thank you. I don't want to leave without saying that I could very well do it. We usually have, as you know, Artie is usually our Toastmaster here. Artie had surgery a little while ago on his back. He's doing fine, but could not be with us here tonight. And he's missing this, believe me. But I want to say thank you to the state police, the local police, the fire companies, Meredith Post 33, for the past years and this year. We always send out thank you notes after, but I just wanted to say thank you tonight for their kindness, and I don't even have to ask. I received letters saying, Doc, we'll be there, same place, same time. We're going to do this, and we'll be setting up. I don't even have to ask. It's come that far. So I want to say thank you. The guys on the Hill who are here every Thursday night and continue to be here every Thursday night, as they have been for the past 27 years. A couple of years ago, you might remember, it was a pleasure having the saluting Marine with us, Sergeant Chambers, who salutes the folks off in D.C. This year I had a call from a senior chief who lives in Guilford, and as it stated, we talked for a while. Senior chief, he was a Vietnam veteran, served 3 tours in Vietnam, 62, 63, and 65. Senior Chief Bill Rohr, who said, how about we have a here in New Hampshire, how about the Navy saluting our bikers here in New Hampshire, and I'll stay with the folks on the mound. Our saluting Senior Chief from New Hampshire, Bill Maher, up here on the mound. Tonight with the Pledge of Allegiance. I'd like to ask Purple Heart Rider Paul Martin, and Paul will be introducing the individual to sing the national anthem, and then we'll have the invocation by Alicia Gorell, Post 33 Auxiliary Chaplain. Paul Martin.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States, Republic, one nation, under Now I'd like to introduce our national anthem. Singing the national anthem tonight is the world record holder, most anthems in 1 year. Tonight he'll sing his 310th performance on his way to setting the final count on July 11th of this year to set a new world record from Nashua, New Hampshire, out St. Louis.
did and handed on for them to do the same. For one day we will spend our sunset years telling our children what it was like in the United States when men were free. Would you please join me in prayer? Almighty God, we thank you for the silence and the time to pray. We thank you for the blessings you have so graciously bestowed upon our lifetimes. May we always be grateful for what you and others are doing for us. We ask your blessing upon all of those who have served our country and presented themselves before you. We ask your special blessings upon all Americans who are missing in action or are prisoners of war. Grant them the strength to endure the hardships of imprisonment and the loss of their loved ones in the America they so heroically serve. You know where they are and how they're being treated. Strengthen them and us in our time of sorrow, that we may know your divine will and persevere with our struggles to locate and return them home safely to us. Stop in the hearts of those who keep them prisoners, and may they hear your message of justice for those who live in our justice. Bless our country, bless those who continue to seek the peace of our Lord and our missing in action. You are our strength and our hope. To you return in this hour of our need. Amen.
Thank you so very much. Thank you. We've always been very grateful to the town of Meredith, who's been very supportive for the past 25 plus years. Before I continue, I'd like to relieve the color guard at this time. Color guard dismissed. The town of Meredith very gracious to us over the years, and to welcome everyone. I'd like to introduce Meredith's biker town manager, Mr. Phil Warren.
Thank you. Unfortunately, I didn't get to join this great ride tonight, but it sounds like it was fun. And it sounds like we have about 1,000 people here tonight. So let's let everybody hear it. Welcome to the town of Meredith. On behalf of the residents of this great little town and all the elected officials and everybody that makes these things happen, we welcome you. We hope you have a great time here. And we are pleased to see this many people here to support the Northeast POW MIA network. And we all know when that stops, when the number gets to 0. Again, thank you and enjoy the night.
The network, as everyone knows, or I hope knows over the years, we're an apolitical group. There's been an individual that's supported the network most often when we needed anything. He's been here for the past many years. Hasn't said much, but I have spoken with him by email and on the phone when we needed something done, not just with the network, but I have called on him. Veterans in the state know him very well. I wanted to give him the opportunity just to say a few words because of what he's done for so many of the veterans in the state. No matter what his job is, he has been in law enforcement, spent 36 years in law enforcement in Homeland Security, veteran. He works for Veterans in Homeland Security. Steve Warner. Steve?
It is an honor and a pleasure for me to be here to wish you all well. I bring greetings from my boss, U.S. Senator Kelly Ayotte. She sends her love and respect to all of you. And I just want you to know that I stand in awe of the folks gathered here, in awe of Bob and his group, who every year are I'm reminded of this every single day. when I walked into our Manchester office, because as I entered into our office, there's a large framed copy of that iconic photograph from February 23rd, 1945, where it shows 5 U.S. Marines and a Navy corpsman raising the flag atop of Mount Suribachi during the Battle of Iwo Jima. And I'm inspired by that, as is Senator Ayotte, because on that framed copy are words from Oliver Wendell Holmes, himself a combat veteran and one of America's greatest jurists. And those words read, "One flag, one land, one heart, one nation, evermore." And I want you to know that Senator Ayotte and I will always remember your service and sacrifice to our nation, to the veterans in this group and your families, and we will never forget those who have not yet made it home. Thank you.
Thank you. Those of us here, we've been involved with the Northeast POW Network for over 30 years ago. I had the opportunity to meet a group of individuals in New York, Massachusetts, Vermont. I met them in Vermont. One of the leaders passed away a few years ago of lung cancer due to Agent Orange. One of the other leaders at that time, I had been following his lead because of his involvement. He always talked about, at that time, I've learned from him, we only deal in facts over the years. That's all we've dealt with. We've not gotten involved in stories. That was one of his main principles. I followed that. He has been very involved. He and his wife Sharon have been very involved with the Gold Star families of New York over the years. The Vietnam Coalition in Tri-State County in New York. This past year, there was the state, New York State Veterans Council of New York State. It's been more than a friend for years, but we followed his lead in the past 30 years and continue to do so. The president of the Northeast POW MIA Network, Don Amorosi. Don.
As is always the case, it's not about us. It's about you. I often demand what I like to thank you for what you're doing, for training to be here. I'm going to start something out that Pat doesn't want me to say it, because he probably wouldn't want to say it anyway, but the prisoner of war missing in action issue has been an issue for a very, very long time. This goes back beyond before World War I, through World War II, Korea, Vietnam, and wars, the modern wars. I would like to give credit, and I'm not taking credit away from anyone else. This issue would not be as vibrant as it is today if it weren't for Vietnam veterans. The Vietnam veterans and that era, that mindset, took an issue that had laid dormant forever. And not only did they breathe life into it, but we went after things with a fervor that really, as I say that, we may have started this effort, we may have given it life, we may have tried to give it voice, but without you, we wouldn't have done it. If I were to speak, if I were to write, whatever I do, without a listening, caring, responsive outcome, it would be time wasted. prisoners of war missing in action, we all think about foreign lands. I want you to think about something. We have a lady here whose brother, Michael Glassy, was held prisoner of war by the United States government. Michael soldier when he was known. That in itself is a travesty. The real painful part of it, he was taken from his family. They didn't know. And I admire Pat, once you found out, for not coming on court and maybe put the end to a military career. I don't know what else could have happened. She could have had all sorts of problems. I think it's terrible when we imprison our own. I only know this because the man who's now dead brought this information forward. Ted Sampling was a good friend of mine. We need people to be aware, to be concerned, to be involved at whatever level you can be. You don't have to have mass gatherings. You don't have to have a machine behind you. What you have to have is an interest and a tremendous amount of concern about your fellow man. Everybody here has the potential, if you were a uniform, to have been a prisoner, to be missing, and not be here tonight. I fear that people here may have children in the military. We don't want them. The secret is just put pressure on the people who work for you. They're called representatives and senators and state members. And I have no problem with this program. They work for you. They work for me. They are obligated to protect the lives of all of our children in service, who are in service to our country. If they fail in that regard, please continue where we have started and do not let them get away with it. If they don't respond, they should be removed. If they do respond, they should be credited, we should embrace them. But please, if you hear enough to be here tonight, and apparently understand the tremendous gratitude I have for you, the absolute pride that I have, even to be allowed to speak to you. Don't give up what you're doing. Please, don't give up.
Job is Chief Senior Leader Management for the Directorate of Manpower, Personnel and Services, Headquarters, Air Force Reserve Command, Robbins Air Force Base, Georgia. She's held the position of Commander, Air Reserve Personnel Center, Buckley Air Force Base, Colorado. Twice served as Mission Support Group Commander, both at 911th Air Wing, Pittsburgh Air Reserve Station, Pennsylvania, 459 Air Refueling Wing, Andrews Air Force Base, Maryland. After having served 11 years, I think this is very important, as enlisted member, attained the rank of Master Sergeant. Her collective years of service at this time is 37. Our friend, POW advocate, an amazing lady, and I could go on, but I won't. Our friend, Colonel Patricia Blassie.
Good evening, everyone. Oh my gosh, so let's see. It is a great privilege for me to have been invited to join you for the Freedom Ride and Vigil this evening. I'm so glad to be back in the wonderful state of New Hampshire and the special town of Meredith. It's just a privilege to have come back, and it always causes me to think, what is it all about? Why are we standing here? Why, just as Don was talking about, what does the ride mean? What does the vigil mean? Does it even matter? There are days in years gone by that I didn't think so, because it took my family 26 years to find out where my brother was. So what did it all mean? So we ended here at Heskey Park on another Thursday night, not unlike other Thursdays here. There's hundreds of us here tonight, but every Thursday since 1989, there is maybe 20, maybe 10, maybe there's one standing here holding vigil for prisoners of war and missing in action. And I believe that it is one of the most important things that we should do as a nation in order to remind not only ourselves, but those who are serving in the highest levels of government, who can control and bring our folks home and answer the questions. It is critical that we continue to do this for those who have served and the families that are waiting for the answers. Back in 2000, Bob Jones called and said, "Pat, will you come up and speak at the vigil?" I said, I can't, I'm too busy. I got my work. I've spent so much time away from work helping bring my brother home. I can't do it. He said, "You think about it." I said, "I'll think about it." I went home and I talked to my mom. She goes, "Pat, you must go speak. You must represent the family. You must thank the people who were working for our family even when we didn't know we needed help. You've got to go." And so it was people and groups like the Northeast POW MIA Network that if it wasn't for groups like this, we would still be sitting in St. Louis wondering, what's going on with Michael? When are you going to go back into Vietnam to find him? We hear that you're going to send a team in. What's going on with Michael's case? What's going on with the fullest possible accounting for all Americans who answer the call? What's going on for fullest possible accounting for all the families that are waiting for answers for even today for their POW and MIA members? What is going on with our American people who stand strong and say this is a priority for our nation? What's going on with all of the things that we need to do for the people who have gone before us and who have served and who need answers to the questions that there's so many answers that questions that need to be answered. And I want to tell you a quick story. I don't want to lose you, but I want to tell you about 5 words. That's faith, trust, truth, responsibility, and accountability. This is what the Northeast POW MIA Network stands on, those 5 words. And I grew up having faith and trust. Not the kind of faith and trust I have now in my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. It's a different kind of faith and trust. It's a faith and trust that comes from being an American born in the greatest country in the world. Faith that our nation's leaders will do right for all people to the best of their ability. That's the kind of faith and trust we must have. My brother Michael, as it was said, was killed in Vietnam on May 11, 1972. My family was told that he could not be recovered. It was during Operation Linebacker 1. The firing was so intense. He was flying an 837, close ground support. When he went down, there wasn't communication. The helicopters went in to get him, and they couldn't recover him. They didn't see any life, and they came out because it was too dangerous for them. What we were told over the years that they would go back into the crash site, they would find Michael and bring him home. And we had faith and trust. We believed that. We had no reason not to. So it it was in 1994 that Ted Sampley, Don talked about him, a Green Beret from the Vietnam War, an activist to the highest level, called my family and said, Pat, I think I know where your brother is. I'm like, what in the world are you talking about, Mr. Sampley? Well, I don't understand what you're saying. He goes, no, I read, there's a book and there's information about the unknown soldier, and I read it and I looked at the details of the case, and in the book it outlines the day that the unknown soldier was killed, May 11, 1972, where he was found 60 miles north of Saigon and An Loc, and all of these other details, what kind of artifacts were found with him. And he said, I think it's your brother, he's buried in the Tomb of the Unknowns. And I was like, Mr. Sampley, that's the craziest thing I could ever imagine, because how could there be a known soldier in the Tomb of the Unknowns? So I called the Air Force Casualty Office and they said, by no means, Captain Blassie, by no means do we have anything to substantiate that your brother's in the Tomb of the Unknowns. And I said, you know what? I believe that, because that's the craziest story that I could ever imagine that our nation could have done. You know, you don't put a known soldier in the Tomb of the Unknowns. So it was 3 years later that I got another call from an investigative reporter from CBS who said, man, I read Ted Sampley's story and I think it's true. And I said, well, you know, we cannot get these kind of phone calls. I said, we will sign an affidavit and we will go for it. And that is what we did. So what came from that affidavit is that we had access, our Vince had access to any government document with my brother Michael's name on it. And there were more documents and more decisions that were made for my brother Michael and my mom and dad, Jean and George Blassie, who are both passed now. There were more decisions made for them than we could even imagine, unbeknownst to the Blassie family. So after we researched that, after we found out that Michael was found 5 months after he was shot down, that he was sat on a shelf from 1972 to 1984 when he was interred in the Tomb of the Unknowns, when we found out so many details that I would take too much of your time to tell you, but the government documents spoke for themselves, and so that's the third word. We had faith and trust, and now we had truth. And what were we going to do with truth? Oh my gosh. And truth sometimes is hard to take. It's really hard to take sometimes. So we sat around the table and discussed it as a family, and you know, that's sacred ground. What an honor, my brother George said. What an honor that Michael's buried at the Tomb of the Unknowns. And we talked about that, and my sister Mary said, but wait a second, if I was lost, Michael would come find me. And my sister Judy said, I don't think anybody cares because they haven't cared up to now. Look how long we've waited and look at what is going on. And then my brother George came up with, oh my goodness, wait a second. Michael's a hero. He has a name. He deserves to be known. And my mom just looked at her children sitting around the table and she said, it's been 26 years and I want to bring my son home. I want him to have his own tombstone and I want the truth to be known. So we gathered together as a family, knowing confronting our government is not an easy thing to do. And so we went public on national TV and we asked our government to live up to the responsibility and accountability that we stand for. It was quite the trip to do so, but you know, here we are, faith and trust, then truth, but then with truth comes accountability and responsibility. All that we said on TV, which is really hard to tell a story on TV, we would say, we want to bring Michael home. We want to know the truth. The trail leads to the tomb. And that's what we kept saying. And it was really difficult for us because we were questioned. How do you know? Well, it's in the government documents. And it's very hard to, you know, to explain that in a 3-minute soundbite. But we kept to our messaging, and the government answered. The remains in the Tomb of the Unknown were disinterred after they put together a team, looked at the same documents that we looked at the top board people that we had would disinter those remains from the Vietnam War and do DNA testing. Now, my mother, if she were living today, she would tell you we did not, as a Blassie family, need DNA testing. Those government documents and the first-hand witness accounts from the Army officers that went in to Michael's crash site to find him, they were first-hand accounts, and it was true, and the documents were there. But for the American people, the Congress, and the media, we agreed to do DNA testing. My mother gave her own blood to do the mitochondrial DNA on those remains so that she could identify her son and bring him home after 26 years. Yes, a family's questions were finally answered in 1998, and on June 11th of 1998, we were finally able to bring Michael home and bury him with his own tombstone, with his own name, in Jefferson Barracks in St. Louis. And I'll tell you, just as Jesus said in John 8:28, you shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free. I'm here to say, my family was set free, and I truly believe that we must continue to stand strong together, that we must never forget until they all come home, and that we need to answer every family's questions who have a prisoner of war or missing in action a loved one. Even if the truth is hard to take, we'll take the truth. Even if the rest of the story is not easy, we want the rest of the story on every member that has served our nation and who we promised that we would bring them home. And so the Freedom Ride in the Air Force, sometimes we say, you know, the planes will fly. And we'll say, oh, that's the sound of freedom. Well, I'll tell you what, the sound of freedom is what you all do and did tonight as we rode and for our POWs and MIAs. That's the kind of freedom that I continue to want to hear. And so I am so glad that I was invited. I thank you, Don, Bob, and City Manager. I'm just so thankful that you allowed me to share in this time, and that we can remind our nation never to forget. Let's stand strong. Let's bring them home. Let's know the rest of the story, and the truth always prevail. Thank you, and God bless you.
Oh, that was Bob. I'd like to put a stamp on that, if I may. Along with that, Pat's brother, Michael J. Blassie, the one that serves the 200 is a meritorious Medal of Honor that goes along with that distinction. Michael served as America's Vietnam unknown for 14 years. Once those remains were removed and sent back to the family to St. Louis, even though he was known as X-26, they knew it was Michael J. Blassie from day one. Once those remains were given back to the family, that distinction of having that meritorious Medal of Honor was removed from the family. That meritorious Medal of Honor was taken. Thank you for your service. Welcome home. Thank you for your service. Well done. Isn't that nice? I just wanted to put a final exclamation to that story. Here at Vigil, we never had captions before because, as Don said, captions are things that get into something. We never had caps. But Dave Haskell, Patriot Guard, tonight we're playing caps. Dave will explain why. Dave, everybody knows Whiskers, very involved individual.
Thank you, Bob. You hear me now? Welcome home, brothers and sisters. We're honored to have bugler Gary Torrenson from the New Hampshire 100 Nights of Remembrance tonight. Gary is not playing taps for those POWs and MIAs who have not come home, but is playing to make you aware of 100 Nights of Remembrance. Founded in 2006 by Noel Taylor, who served in the U.S. Army, Vietnam veteran, retired U.S. Air Force Master Sergeant Lee Hurdle, who has sounded taps for over 2,000 veterans interments at the New Hampshire State Veterans Cemetery in New Hampshire. Since 2006 to the present, members of 100 Nights of Remembrance sound taps at the New Hampshire State Veterans Cemetery in Boston, the Mount Calvary Cemetery in Manchester, every evening, rain or shine, 7 p.m. from Memorial Day through September 11th, 100 Nights of Remembrance. After the 100 consecutive nights, closing ceremonies, taps are then sounded once a week on Sunday afternoons at 1 p.m. Rain, shine, or even snow until the opening ceremony Memorial Day. 100 Nights of Remembrance is dedicated to honoring and paying the highest respect to those who have served in our armed forces and all of our fallen heroes. The public is welcome to attend these solemn ceremonies so we may never forget. I was handing a note earlier. We have to remember a couple of our POWs that passed away since our last ceremony here. Don Mont passed away on May 15th, U.S. Air Force. He was a prisoner of war in Augsburg, Germany. April 13th, 1944 to May 9th, 1945. He was an aerial gunner with the 388 Bomb Group. Ivan Eaton passed away September 15th. He was a Korean War veteran, POW. He was with the 25th Division, 35th Infantry. He was a POW for 3 years. An absent, but not forgotten. Our good fellow, Wes Wells, who had the opportunity to ride in the sidecar with me last year to the Vigil. He's 94 this year. In the U.S. Air Force at 24 Bomber Group. He was in prison for 115 days, 40 months in the Philippines.
Thank you, Dave. Thank you all. Thank you, Colonel Blassie. Thank you, Don. Thank you all for being here. Please be safe. Blessings to all. Thank you.